Hello, I'm Stephen, the man with the mustache, and welcome to The Creative Arts Show. This is the show where we aim to promote the creative arts industry and the amazingly talented people that work within it. Especially now, during the coronavirus pandemic, they really need our help. Joining us today will be a guest that will be able to provide some insight of what's happening in the industry due to the coronavirus pandemic and how it's been affected in Melbourne and Australia. His name is Rav Thomas. He's a singer-songwriter who's been to the top of the ARIA Charts. He's a venue owner, and he's the director at Ánthem Entertainment, an events and booking company that book performers, performances, and venues, hundreds of gigs across Australia, keeping audiences entertained. Let's meet our guest. Well, thank you, Rav. Thanks for joining us on the Creative Arts Show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in the industry, and tell us a bit about your background.
I could tell you how long I've been in the industry, Stephen, and that would give away my age, mate, but it's been a lifetime. So my dad was a publican, so, my baby used to start quite literally on a bar, and I was working behind a bar right through my teens in country pubs that my family owned. But I've been a full-time singer for over a couple of decades. So there's a hint as to my age, mate.
Very good.
And then I've owned venues here in Melbourne as well. So I own ARIA Charts in Brunswick. I've still got a pub called Merchant Lane in Mornington. And I work mainly these days, certainly more than singing these days, as a host, particularly for AFL events, so speaking talent around the AFL and other sporting sector. And then I have a company called Ánthem Entertainment, and we do everything, mate, which includes AFL events. We've got a pub choir. We booked over 800 different indie acts in Melbourne in the last 2 years. So really, entertainment and events. That with that company that spills in a little bit into some social media and consultancy work for venues and stuff as well. So we're neck deep wearing all hats, mate. And like all these businesses, we've been ineffective since the middle of March. And
the Australian tour, I imagine that's all rural Australia as well. And
absolutely, yeah. So we did some things like that, and even things like we did the James Hird speaking events last year. So James basically goes into a live event and sells his story, and that went all across Melbourne, but it went to Mildura and it went to places like that as well. So we're certainly doing our best. I mean, the problem was, and this is, I think, something that people need to remember, is the events, entertainment, hospitality sector was already difficult. Getting bums on seats was already hard. We now compete with Netflix and Facebook and Tinder and AFL footy on telly, etc. So it wasn't something that was easy to start with, and now we've got a challenge the likes of which that we never thought we'd face.
What have you been doing in the interim? What have you been doing since March, I guess, for, grants, helping businesses out, helping your business, preparing for when this is over? What have you been up to?
Well, I have about 80,000 conversations like this a day, mate.
Beautiful.
And, look, and it's really about, because there isn't a lot we can do, and it's probably a question you answer in two parts, in that the first lockdown was like, right, well, this is shit house. But let's help pubs clean up their Instagram. Pubs can paint, they can clean out the storeroom, whatever it is. Let's chat to the talent about how we can market them when we come back to create events that are even more enticing for customers and do all that sort of stuff. Okay, this is going to be terrible, but we were told at the time it's going to be a couple of months, and then we'll go back to 20 people, we'll go back to 50 people and so on. Because remember, in Melbourne, we were told at June 1, venues open for 20 people. And then about June 23, we were going to open for 50 people. And again, on one day's notice, basically the day before, they said, you can't open for 50, you've got to stay at 20, and then we had to close again. So in that first section, it was a little bit different because we were still active, and certainly in our case, we planned a lot of events for the end of July, where we were at sort of that 50 to 100 people. And we weren't going to make money on that, but then at least we were open. We were keeping our talent working. Brand awareness for the venues, we were getting people back through the door, and then we had to cancel that on a day's notice, so we put those events off till the start of August and had to cancel them effectively for the third time. So it's much different this time, and it's much more difficult, and so it really has sucked the life out of pretty much everyone that works in the industry. And you think and that might be a venue manager, but it might be a chef or a comedian, or the sound techs, the security guys that work the door at each of these events, whatever it is. It was that second part that was actually, I think, for a lot of our guys, was a lot harder than the first one.
So when do you see this ending, and when do you see this ending, and then how will we recover? What's the way out?
That's the question. When this happened the first time, it was like, well, the industry may look a bit different. We've got to be prepared for that, but this is only a period. So, so again, this time around, that's the magic question. Look, and all businesses need to plan. So that at the moment, so what are we doing at the moment? Well, look, we're having conversations. We're chatting to our venue managers. We're chatting to bands. We're chatting to the retired footy guys, whatever it is. But there's nothing we can do. And that's the most difficult thing, because we tried that second and third time and we had the rug pulled from underneath us. So as to where we go from here, we're desperately keen to find out what the goalposts are and when they're going to be. So at least we know, well, this is what we can do. Is it going to be feasible or not? Yep. In some instances it will, and some it won't. We will lose venues, and we'll lose great people in the industry that will go to other industries. We'll lose them. They'll leave Melbourne. So they're the... that's the scary thing. And, that sounds like it's a very negative thing to say, and I'm always really careful whether it's a young band that calls up or whether it's doing an interview like this or whatever else, to make sure in our tone that we're positive, make sure that we have a sense 100%. Of proactivity and that we're going to adapt and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, we can't deny the truth that this is a cataclysm that we're right neck deep in. So, so in answer to your question, mate, we need to know what the goalposts are. So we can basically say, well, this is what it's going to look like, and let's work backwards from here.
Yeah, I read a stat, 25% of people are going to lose their jobs, but in the industry, creative arts industry, 75% of those are going to lose the job. But right now, it's almost 100% of those people, you know what I mean? So it's very scary. And I think, 75% is generous. That's 3 in 4 people. But, right now, I think it's a bit more. So what is the word on the street? What are other people doing? Obviously, you've spoken to lots of people. What sort of action are people taking? Obviously, the internet's massive, streaming, creating content like this for people, so many platforms to people to perform on, but it's obviously hard to make money off those platforms as well. So what are people doing? What's happening out there?
You make a great point. I mean, most of the people that we work with, they're doing stuff and they're doing streams with varying degrees of success. And the problem with the internet is it's all free, right? So to charge your customer, you've got to come up with something good. And that's really, and then you've got to have some sort of marketing budget to let them know that it exists in the first place. So it's really hard. Look, a lot of our musos, in the example of the musicians, they've been doing some stuff. And a lot of it's great stuff. Some of them are doing okay out of their virtual tip jar. And, we've certainly got a couple of players that are they're not earning what they were when they were doing live, but then they're not leaving their house and they're, so all weighed up, there's a couple of guys that are going okay, but most of them are not, because it's just really hard to create that sort of content, particularly on short notice. So look, it's something that has its place, but the whole point of the entertainment events, live entertainment industry, is that it is live.
Exactly right.
So it really is a poor man's version of what we're going to do. I mean, a lot of people, I think, are suggesting that it'll form part of what we do when we come out the other side of this. It'll act as a nice addition to live events, and that may be true, but I don't think it will to any significant degree, because it's not why you're doing it. You're going out to be amongst it.
I think you've been a great avenue for support for a lot of people in your video blogs and so on, and you've been a little bit active on social media as well, that I've seen, which is absolutely great. So what do you think the government's been doing? Have they been doing enough? Do they need to do more? What's happening in that area?
Look, there are some brilliant organisations that are doing great things, but we've got such an enormous problem that they're not going to help everyone, and they're not going to help everyone for the whole time. So you might get a grant to assist you with rent for a month, but you can't get that for every month. So again, this is why, gee whiz, we need to get back to work. That's one of the reasons. But the biggest question, the answer to the question is this, and this is, I think, something certainly on behalf of Ánthem that we really do harp on, is that is the general public aware of how essential the service of hospitality, entertainment and events is? Because
I don't think they do.
And you'll know in the art sector, it's always been, we've always probably been seen as a bit of an add-on, a bit of a bonus.
It's a leisure activity. Right. You know what I mean?
It's a discretionary spend, and go get a real job, right? That's how it's been particularly. That's how it's been particularly in Australia for a long, long time, and that bit hasn't changed, and that bit isn't the issue. But the question is, and this is particularly relevant to Melbourne, because Melbourne has been touted as the world's most livable city for a really long time. Look, I don't know whether you can see out the window here, mate. I've just come home from walking the dog, mate. It's freezing, right?
Yeah.
It's no one's at the beach today. That's not what makes
Yeah.
Melbourne great. What makes Melbourne great is its events. It's you know,
scene,
and
right.
not just the big ones. It's the small ones, and it's the cool bars, and it's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So whether it's state government, local government, or federal government, I guess this is the point we need to make: is that what kind of city or what kind of country are we living in if we lose 50% of this sector when we come back? Because that's what we're looking at the moment. We're going to lose a lot of pubs. We're going to lose a lot of talent. We're going to have a lot of people move. We're going to have a lot of people that were doing it one way and unable to work those templates next year. Now, some of those things, we've got to accept that challenge. You know, whatever business you're in, you have to adapt. But if we have an industry that is at 25% or 50% strength, where we live, not just in Melbourne, in Australia, it looks really, really different. And that's really, really scary. So that's our point, is that, and that's not to disrespect anyone else in any other industry. What we're saying is no one's saying that the event sector or hospitality sector is essential, and we're saying, well, I reckon we probably are. And we need to be treated with that sort of sense of importance by all levels of government.
So during this lockdown process, how have you been staying creative, and what have you been up to personally?
Well, we've done a few things. It's interesting. We've probably had the same attitude to a lot of artists where it's like, well, it's really hard to find ways to gain revenue, but at least we can be doing some stuff, whether that be a venue or Ánthem or whatever it is, to create content, to keep your brand awareness up and hopefully just keep people smiling. You know, one example, we started a show called All Fun and Games. So we've done 9 episodes of that. We just dropped an episode with Dean Jones, the 80s cricketer, this week. So we talked a lot about Booney's 52 cans on that one. But we've done Richo, Sam Newman, Swanee. We did Tim Rogers from UMI. You know, so a lot of guys, I guess, you know, contacts that we had, I called in a few favours to just basically create some what we hope is good content and hilarious content and insightful content. You know, our next episode is with Deputy Lord Mayor Aaron Wood, where we talk about everything from climate change to what's happening in the industry and homelessness and stuff like that. So we're even starting to get into the serious stuff a little bit. So that's called All Fun and Games.
That's on YouTube, the All Fun and Games?
All Fun and Games is on YouTube, yeah. So if you just search Rav Thomas or All Fun and Games on YouTube, it'll pop up, yeah. So I think there are 8 episodes there to date. And then, on Instagram, if you just look, the Dad Bod Project, which is another thing we've started, which is basically, it's a charity organisation aimed at men in their 30s and beyond to regain their physical strength and in turn their mental strength. You know, we know how much men's mental health is on the agenda. We know how horrific the suicide statistics are during and prior to COVID. So that particular project that we've started with some gyms and trainers is really just about, you know, pushing the concept of if you're physically strong, you've got a better chance of being mentally strong. So, you know, just mental health tips, diet tips, training tips from people who know what they're talking about. So that's another thing we've done. And again, we're just doing that stuff because, you know, I think a lot of people are doing things like that where they thought to themselves, 2018, 2019, we should have done that. It gets to the end of a busy day in hospitality, entertainment, events, and you don't quite get to it. So that's been one of the luxuries. And again, it's hard to turn that into revenue, but that's not really the point. The point is to create brand awareness, whether it be for the talent or for our company, and hopefully give people something to do when they've run out of Netflix.
Just shooting off some numbers here, you know, the I Lost My Gig initiative run by the Australian Music Industry Network and Australian Festival Association, they recorded $320 million that people tallied and contributed to say that that's how much money they've lost. And, you know, that's huge. And the government's come out and said that they're going to pledge $250 million to the arts and entertainment, their package, relief package. But, you know, do you think this is enough?
Well, of course it's not enough. It's just a case of, you know, how long is a piece of string? And, you know, it definitely isn't enough and it definitely won't help everyone. You know, the question is more going to be, who is it going to help? What's it look like? How is it administered? You know, so that's where we've sort of got to wait and see. Is to, you know, in a business like, you know, Ánthem and I use Ánthem as an example, obviously, because, you know, I guess I'm well qualified to speak about that particular business. But, you know, like I said, we had a lot of indie singer-songwriters and bands last year and the year before and since 2016 that were able to do a gig that otherwise wouldn't have been able to do a gig, right? That was very important to that sector and the people that want to go and see it. So if I'm just one example of one small business in part of the whole thing, if that isn't there, if that isn't given assistance to there, what sort of hole does it leave? It leaves an enormous hole.
Right.
It leaves a massive, massive
100%.
hole. So it's whether it's the larger festivals all the way through to the smaller players that are doing this sort of stuff, it has to have assistance, and it has to have assistance for a long time. And it's not just for the artists. We've got to talk about the venues as well, because fixed, you know, we talk about how hard things were for promoting events, or whether it being in a band or, you know, whatever else you're doing. Venues have been doing it tough for a long time as well. We have a staggering number of liquor licences in Victoria. The fixed costs for venues, whether it be your liquor licence and your public liability insurance. You know, we've got a lot of venues where it's thousands and thousands of dollars before you've even opened the door, right? So that's a lot of Palmers or bourbon and cokes you've got to move over the course of a given week. A lot of venues are still having to pay that. They still have to pay the rent. You know, we've got a lot of venues that might have got a rent reduction for a little while, but if you're at zero, then every expense puts you in the negative straight away when you're already back before.
And so, it's cumulative as well. Yeah,
so we've certainly got to make sure that it's not just the art sector that we're talking about, because we're all rely on each other. You know, it's not just the live events; it's the entities that house those live events that are also going to need enormous assistance for a really long time. And that's the bit. Again, not trying to be negative or any of that sort of stuff. That's the scary bit. Is that because
realistic?
Yeah, because look. Just say this next 6 weeks goes to plan, if this thing works. And I'll underline, I'm not making political statements, because I'm not, that's not my qualification as to whether, you know, whether these policies are the right thing or the wrong thing or any of that sort of stuff. That's not my place. But just say this does work and we can get back to 50 people in October, maybe in January or December we can get back to 100 people. Even then, and that looks now like we'd probably take that right now. It's not a best case scenario, but it's pretty close. If we get back to that, we're still a long time, years away from recouping the damage that's been done.
Lastly, how are people going to find? How can people find grants and financial assistance? You know, what's the best way?
Look, it's hard because they're not easy to read. So, you know, it's handy if you've got someone that can help you. Certainly, if anyone wants to reach out to Ánthem Entertainment, and we're certainly not qualified in this space, and I know that there are people that are. You can pay $2 or $3K to have a grant written and things like that. I certainly, I don't personally know a lot about that sort of stuff, but we've certainly had our team send links on to people, and, you know, so some of those things are, whether it's the Creative Victoria or the Australia Council that have some grants. There's also grants just to help people get by. Support Act have done some really excellent stuff in terms of, you know, so you might be a comedian, you're completely out of work, you're homeschooling your 2 kids and you've got to pay your rent. So they're people that can reach out and help you. But certainly if you want to go to anthementertainment.com.au and shoot us a message, or you can go to Facebook, Ánthem Touring and Entertainment, just shoot us a message and we can shoot back all that stuff. And I guess it comes back into your question as to what have we been doing this whole time. Well, we've basically been working to just try and help everybody get by. Well, that's all we have, isn't it? You know, so really all we have is to help each other and to keep having conversations like this to come up with 100%. Ideas. And mate, you and I will have a conversation today. We might, over the next month, come up with 100 ideas, and 99 of them will be shit house and not work, but one of them might work. So really, that's what we've got to do. And
we're going to put some links in our description as well for this video, so people can go to those links as well, which will be awesome, and they can hopefully find the help they need. But thanks so much for coming on the show. We always want to finish on a light note, though, and like you said, keep that positivity. We're in lockdown. Let's have some fun. Dean, our producer, told us that you've got a child, or how many children you have?
I do. I'm a single dad of 7 and 10 years old, mate. So look, I can tell you my grade one maths has come along in the last couple of months. I've still got not as much as it could have, but that's what I've been doing, mate.
Well, you've been doing a bit of homeschooling, so we want to see how much you've learned. So we're going to do a little bit of a maths quiz for you. We're going to put a minute on the clock, and we're going to see how many maths sums you can get right in a minute. Are you ready?
No.
No? Okay. I'll take that as a yes. All right, here we go. Minutes starting right now. 7 plus 3.
10. Thanks, mate.
Beautiful. Very good. 15 minus 9.
we'll call that 6.
Yeah, good job. 6, they're getting harder, by the way. 6 times 9?
54.
Hey, you're not bad. You've learned something. 36 divided by 3?
No, 4.
12. 12. One wrong, that's fine.
36 divided by 3. Oh, 9 fours. Shit. You know, I just berated my daughter for that one today. God, sorry.
That's all right. 28 plus 32?
What do we so that'd be 60.
Very good. And they're getting harder. 110 divided by 11?
11? 10.
That is correct. 10. Very good. Very good. You tricked me for a second. I had to think. All right. 8 squared?
64.
Very good. If I have 4 apples and Rav eats 3, how many did you eat?
3.
You're very good. That was a trick question.
Mac and Indy, if you're watching this, sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, we'll tell them you got them all right, okay?
Yeah, please do.
All right, and last question. Did you enjoy being on the show today?
Absolutely, mate. Look, we are happy
good.
to have these conversations, whether it's chat to a venue manager, a sporting talent, a guy that's still desperate to do his first gig, or a gal, or whatever that is. We've made that very clear from the start. Our doors are open. So, look, we're doing a lot of these sorts of conversations with the endeavour to give ourselves as an industry the best chance of being our best selves when we come out the other side of this, mate. So, look, I appreciate the opportunity and happy to chat to anybody anytime.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us, Ralph. It's been a pleasure.
Good on you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and thanks again to Rav for joining us. You gave us so much great information, and it was absolutely fabulous. Go check out Rav Thomas, see what he's up to, and check out Ánthem Entertainment as well. We'll give you links to any of the information we talked about today in the description below, but make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for any future content as well. But more importantly, share this content, share this video, and let's get the word out there. Let's get the message out there that this is an industry that really needs help, and it's really been shocked by the coronavirus pandemic. And there's so many people out there, so many talented people out there that are very helpless right now. So we need to raise awareness of what's going on. So we'd really appreciate that. Share this video. But thanks for tuning in to the Creative Arts Show. We'll see you next time. I'm Stephen, the man with the mustache. Take care.